Karen, the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. Today I want to go through a little bit about how I figure the amount of fabric that I need for a quilt. And I'm starting to work on this soup to nuts. To see how I designed it, you can check out my video here on YouTube. One of the Design Your Own quilt playlists, soup to nuts. So to do that, I'm going to take a block, in this case a Superblock. There are 4 of these in the quilt, and this is there are 4 repeating sections here. This section here repeats in terms of the pieces, but not the color. So it's the same thing, it's just rotated 90 degrees each time it's placed around, and there are different colors, obviously. So sometimes I would take the lowest common denominator or the smallest repeating piece, but in this case I think I'm just going to look at this whole Superblock as a whole, because that will help me with figuring out the fabric. The saving grace here is I'm going to need the same amount of blue, orange, green, and pink. So once I figured out one, then I know how much I need of the others. I'm just using pencil and eraser, pretty good sized eraser. And I'm just going to start in on this. You're going to see me do fits and starts and all sorts of changes of mind that I might do, refiguring. Pretty good at math, but I do have this calculator here just because I like to check myself. And I've done enough of these that I know what some of the division, some of the math is already off the top of my head. I probably won't show you all of the pieces and how I do them. I'll just give you a couple so that you can see how it goes, because you'll probably want to adapt this to how you want to do it anyway. This is just how I do it. All right, so looking at this as a whole, these are individual units. It's a 9-patch, 4 9-patches basically. And I have to decide the size that I want. In this case, I'm going to do what's called a maquette, which is a smaller version, sort of a kind of a mock-up, but not really. Maquette is, I think, something in French, like a small version of it or something. Anyway, so I sometimes will do that before I do a quilt, just to see how I like the colors together and make sure that my math is all right. And that my piecing instructions are going to be okay. And then I will go ahead and do a larger version of the quilt, and then it's just a matter of changing the numbers that I come up with, and that's pretty easy to do. At some point I'm going to do a series or maybe a class or something on how I devise and write patterns. I've had several people ask me about that. But let's get started on this. And first of all, I'm going to, as I said, decide on the size. And for this maquette, I'm going to have each of these 9-patch units be 2 inches finished, which means I'm going to be cutting them at 2.5 inches. So this Superblock, in the end, I've got 6 by 6, so it's going to be 12 inches finished. This isn't going to be so maquette-y, actually. The entire quilt then is going to be 48 inches square with a border on it. So anyway, all right, and 2.5 is a pretty common size when you're quilting. So they're going to be 2.5 inch cuts for the most part. All right, so I'm going to try to write a little larger, and I'm going to slow down. I just finished filming for a Instagram Reels, and I'm trying to cram everything into 15 seconds. So now I have to tell myself to slow down. All right. So the first thing I want to look at is what kind of shapes do I have going on here. I've got half square triangles. I have sort of rail fancy designs here that are just two strips. And then I have a square and a triangle in a square and an hourglass. Okay, so those are the different shapes and different measurements we're going to do. I am going to start out with the easy one, which is a square. What I often will do is to divide it by color. And I'll write out, so I've got white, and then I'm going to do color 1, which will be blue here. It's going to change from block to block, but it's going to be the same for each color. So whatever I need for blue is how much I'll need for orange, etc. So color 1, which for our purposes we'll look at the blue, and then color 2, which is pink. Then I have the stripe, and I'm also going to figure for color 3, which we'll call the orange. This is amazing that I'm doing orange and pink in a quilt. They were my 2 least favorite colors for quilts just a few years ago. And then color 4, which is going to be green. Now these are all going to end up being the same, but I'm going to figure them out here. And I'm going to start out with the white and the easiest one, which is I have a white square. So that's easy. I'm just going to need 2.5-inch strips, and I need 1, 2, 3, 4 for this. So I have 1 plain white square in each block. So that means I need 4 2.5-inch squares. And I happen to know that I can get 16 2.5-inch squares per strip. So I can easily get what I need out of 1 strip. So I can actually get 4 blocks out of this. So out of a 2.5-inch strip, I can get 16. I only need 4, so I only need 1 strip. There's going to be some waste here, and I can use that for other projects, or I may be able to use it for other pieces here. So for right now, I'm just going to say that it's 1 strip, 2.5 by width of fabric. And a 2.5-inch strip just means I need 2 at this point. Just for this piece, I need 2.5 inches, a 2.5-inch strip of fabric, which is 2.5 by 40 inches. I figure 40 inches for the width of fabric. Sometimes you'll get 42, sometimes 44, 45. That happens rarely these days unless you're looking at a boutique. They're making their widths a little smaller and their prices a little higher. All right, so I just figure 40 because even if you have 42 and you wash your fabric, then 40 is just a safer number, and I would rather people have a little bit of extra at the end than to not have enough fabric. All right, so I know that I need that much for the 4.5-inch square. Now I'm looking at that, and I need a half strip, so this is a 2.5-inch square divided in half. So I'm going to need 1.5 by 2.5, and I need 1. Let me think about that. 1.5 plus 1.5, you lose, which is 3. Yes, all right. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Now sometimes I would strip piece that, so I do a strip of white and a strip of the color, but because I have 4 different colors here, that's not going to be so viable. So I need 1.5-inch by 2.5-inch, and I need 4 of those, but I've already got some left over from up here, so that's just going to be a wash. I'm going to put those 2 together. I can use that same amount of fabric for that. All right, then I'm going to need half square triangles, and I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I have 4 of these, so I need 20 that are going to be half square triangles. Now, let's talk about half square triangles here for a minute. So I can get that back in frame. The way I do half square triangles is to make them a little oversized and then trim them to size, so I've got the perfect size. So if I'm doing a 2.5 inch block, or 2-inch finished, I'm going to add a 1/2 inch to the finished size of the half square triangle block. So 2 inches plus an inch is 3 inches. So I have 2 3-inch squares here. One is the background, which will be our white, and then a pink. So I've drawn a diagonal line from corner to corner and then sewn a scant 1/4 inch on either side. And honestly, when I'm doing half square triangles, often I will do a scant 1/4 inch. Let's see if I can find a pair of scissors here that will actually cut fabric. This may be tricky. All right, so now I'm just going to cut down the middle. This is going to be really tricky with these scissors. You'll use better scissors, of course. These are my craft table scissors, which are kind of sad, as you can see. Whew, should have gotten out my rotary cutter. All right, so now I have my half square triangles, and I would press them probably to the dark side and then trim them up using my block lock ruler. If you want to know how I use the block lock ruler, which is one of my very favorite rulers, then you can check out my high fives, top 5 quilting rulers. All right, so you can see that from each of these white squares, plus of course a colored square, that I'm going to get 2 half square triangles. So when I say here that I need, what did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20. I already wrote it down. See, you're seeing my fits and starts. This is how I roll. All right, so I need 20 of them, but that's 20 half square triangles, and I can get 2 half square triangles out of each square. So I actually need 10, and this time I need 3-inch squares because I'm making them oversized and trimming them down. So I need 20 HSTs. I can get 13 3-inch squares per strip. Right, 13 times 3 is 39, and I can live with 40 as my strip width, or the width of my fabric. So I've got 13 per 3-inch strip. I only need 10 because remember I can get 2 half square triangles for every white square. So 1 strip will be fine. So I need 1 strip that's 3 inches by width of fabric, and that is then going to be 3 more inches. All right, let's talk then about this hourglass unit. So to make the hourglass, I'm actually going to take 2 half square triangle units that have been trimmed. Yes, I would go ahead and trim it first. They're going to be 2 different colors, but I'm going to show you how I would do it with just these. So I have half square triangle units, which we're going to treat just as squares here. These would be pressed and trimmed, but just as squares here. And then I'm going to place them facing each other, but with the colored triangles on opposite sides. So it's colored to white, and with the seams butted up. Now I'm going to treat these just as squares, but I want to make another half square triangle unit from them. So I'm going to draw a diagonal line down the center from corner to corner, and sew a scant 1/4 inch on each side, cut it in the middle, and then I will have this hourglass. I don't know why I can't remember hourglass. This hourglass. So I need to start out to make this half square triangle unit. I need to have these half square triangle units be 3 inches, because that's what I need in order for this to get down, for me to trim it down to a 2.5 inch square. All right, so this has to be 3 inches, which means that these first units that I make, the squares have to start out at 4 inches. All right, so it's 1 inch larger than the size that I need here. So I will make that 4 inches. And even if it's a little, I'm running this through my head, but yes. So then I can trim that down to size. All right, so that means that I need 1 half square triangle, 2 half square triangles with white on it. So that's 1 4-inch square for each half square triangle unit. All right. Oh, for each, yikes, hourglass unit. Sorry about the fireworks. We're approaching the 4th of July in the United States and everybody goes crazy. All right, so that means that for white here, I am going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 4-inch squares. And yes, my paper really does get this messy. I can read it. You, of course, will be a little more organized about the whole thing. So I need 4 4-inch squares, and it's 40-inch wide fabric, so I can get 10 4-inch squares per strip. And I only need 4, so that's 1 strip that's 4 inches by width of fabric, which is 4 inches. All right, do I have any other white here? I don't think so. 1, 2, got that, and that. All right, so now I can add up what I need of white, and it's 2.5 plus 3 inches is 5.5, 9.5 inches, which is a bit more than 1/4 yard. So I would probably get 3/8 yard. So that's another 4.5 inches on top of 9. So that's 13.5 inches, which will give me a little bit of extra if I messed up somewhere. All right, so I just continue to do that for all the shapes. I see that I've got, for blue, for example, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 half square triangles. So then the half square triangles are the ones that I cut 3 inches. So I would go through the same process that I went through with the white here and figure out how much I would need. And that's going to be the same as the pink, the orange, and the green as well. And then the stripe, again, I'm going to figure out I need 4 for this Superblock, and that means that I need 2 striped squares that are 3 inches wide. So then I go through and figure all of that. And that's really all I do. It's just going step by step, choosing each shape or each sort of subunit here and figuring out how much I would need in order to make that block. It can be kind of tedious work, but in a way I kind of enjoy it because it gets everything organized and I can figure out what I need and how much I need of each fabric, and starts me thinking about how the piecing is going to go and how I'm going to explain it in the instructions. So that was kind of a quick and really dirty, messy step through of how I figure out fabric. If you have a different way of figuring fabric, I'd love to hear about it. Please put it down in the comments section so we can all share in it. You may have a better method than I use. This is how my brain works. You know, everybody's brain is different. So you may have a whiz-bang way to do it, or you may use electric quilt, which will give you a pretty good idea. Might be kind of fun to do this and then compare it with EQ. The thing with EQ is that they figure things differently than I do sometimes. They're making the block differently than I am. So the half square triangles, for example, they're going to be figuring that you are doing 2 7/8 inch strips instead of 3 inches. And for just a few half square triangle units, that's not going to make much difference. That's 1/8 of an inch. But if you start doing a boatload of half square triangles, then that extra 1/8 of an inch on each strip starts to add up. So it's you just have to kind of find your own way, but I hope this gives you a little bit of an idea of how to do it. For one of my classes, I did a worksheet on this, so I will post that on my website, and I'll put a link to it in the description down below, and that may help you out as well. So anyway, that's it. Hope it helps. If you have any questions, of course, please put those in the comments. It's been fun to have you here. Glad to see you. Hope to see you again. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and you can hit that notifications bell if you want to be notified when I have a new video. Nice to see you. Thanks. Bye. Peace out.